I am, I think it is, as we go day by day and watch, reality and facts get turned on their head, it makes us even more anxious, for what is happening at DOJ. I wanted to get your take. AG, our mutual friend, Mueller, she wrote, said, this is super simple. If Merrick Garland declines to prosecute a clear case against leaders of the coup, I'll be pissed. Until then, I'm not going to help Trump attack institutions. In the meantime, I'll continue to call out the DOJ for what I think are missteps. It just, when the coup plotters get to take over Congress, I think it is just it's almost like a rage that we all feel, isn't it?
It is a rage, and frankly, it is a fear for the American people, a fear for our democracy. I'm with AG that I will continue to call out DOJ missteps. Some people, Steph, accuse me of beating up on DOJ too much, and some people accuse me of not beating up on DOJ enough. So maybe I'm striking the right balance. But, the biggest misstep is their inaction. It's their refusal to hold Donald Trump and company accountable when the evidence of the crimes they committed against our democracy is overwhelming. That is the most significant misstep. And we saw it manifest itself in some of Donald Trump's dangerous posts and reposts this week. Yeah. He is all but said, for example, if Fani Willis is the first one to indict him in Atlanta, he has all but posted, come to Atlanta for the arraignment on my indictment will be wild. I mean, we are pretty much in the same place we were in the run-up to January 6th. And DOJ, is going to let him take a second crack at another insurrection?
Here's a good idea, though. Donald Trump also said Georgia Republicans should boycott all future elections if the state indicts him for election fraud. He is absolutely right. Where is your dignity? That would be a win-win. He gets indicted and all Georgia Republicans stop voting. But, I mean, this really, to watch just the people that engaged in the insurrection go on, not only go, unpunished, but that are leading committees now trying to investigate the investigators and God knows what else. We just wonder, what is the time frame on this when we've had all these convictions already for seditious conspiracy going up the ladder?
Yeah, what are they waiting for? Donald Trump reposted on his third-rate, social media platform something that one of his supporters posted, and it said, it's not going to happen again. I will fight for Donald Trump until the day I die. We are locked and loaded. Donald Trump reposted that. So, Steph, here we go again. Yeah. And we have a Department of Justice that, for whatever reason, is letting it go unaddressed. I'll never be able to explain why.
Well, I mean, in the case of everything that we just found out, in the last couple of days about J6, how the FBI missed J6, it's like, well, in some ways you go, they didn't miss it. It was Donald Trump's DOJ. Yeah. They were told to focus on left-wing terrorism, of which there's virtually non-existent, Antifa or whatever, and ignore the giant red flags leading up to January 6th, right?
Yeah, they didn't miss anything. All of these decisions they made, these were calculated decisions. I never want to think the worst of our government, of our Department of Justice, of our FBI. But when you have like the top counterintelligence FBI supervisory agent locked up for being in bed with Russia dating back to 2016, what the heck conclusion are we supposed to draw?
Yeah. This latest thing that just broke this morning, a Trump campaign official was caught on tape. Here we go again. Lordy, there's tapes. Telling staff that Trump's comms team would continue to fan the flames of election denial just 2 days after Election Day. This was a campaign strategy session in Wisconsin that was leaked, essentially admitting he lost, and they're going to try and, do whatever they can. Well, what does that do for the case in general? I mean, I know it's not Trump on tape again, but it's part of the larger case, isn't it?
The sort of the scope and breadth of the conspiracy. I think it's a hub and spoke conspiracy. Donald Trump is the hub, and there are endless spokes that radiate out from the hub, all sort of converging to do the same thing or try to do the same thing, keep Trump in power unconstitutionally. The breadth and scope of it is so breathtaking that, I don't want to spend all morning beating up on DOJ, but when, they say we will follow the facts and follow the law wherever they lead, the facts are clear, Steph, and the law as applied to those facts militates in favor of an indictment and indeed demands an indictment. and yet DOJ is not doing it. So I would ask them that question. You keep throwing in our face that you're going to follow the facts and follow the law wherever they lead. You need to answer one question for us. What are we to do when the facts and the law are clear, but you haven't followed them to their natural conclusion? What are we to do?
Yeah. Glenn, help us understand, since you were there, what's happening at the DOJ in the sense of, are these separate? Because we keep saying that's what's stunning about this time we live in. Whenever there's a story about a Trump, you're like, which crime? Which crime are we talking about? Is it, the overthrow of the government, January 6th? Is it the stolen classified documents? So is there one case at the DOJ? Are these separate cases that they could ostensibly bring charges in? I mean, or does one go first? Or it's almost, I think you and I have had this conversation, because there's so much crime. Is that what stops them? Because it's one big case? How does it work?
Yeah, all great questions, and I can't answer them definitively, but I can tell you ordinarily how we would do business. We would investigate.
And is Georgia part of the J6 case? I'm just curious. Would that be part of the national?
Georgia is running its own investigation, but there's certainly overlap, because Donald Trump's Georgia state election crimes were part of his larger conspiracy to retain the presidency unlawfully. So yes, there's lots of overlap there. Ordinarily, what we do is, when we have a target of an investigation and we know that target has committed lots of crimes across the spectrum, we investigate all of them at the same time, hopefully thoroughly, professionally, and aggressively. And then the decisions we have to make, Steph, are, can we batch some of them together in one conspiracy, or are these really separate crimes that need to be brought separately? So I think those are probably the discussions that are going on inside of the Department of Justice. I don't expect you're going to see one enormous overarching conspiracy with everything beginning with the campaign finance crimes he committed with Michael Cohen through the crimes he's committing today at Mar-a-Lago and elsewhere. I think you're going to see if they're doing it right, if they're doing it the way we always do it, you're going to see a series of fairly large conspiracies. And they will drop in whatever order DOJ believes they are prepared to drop: indictment 1, indictment 2, indictment 3.
Let's talk about the Barr-Durham story. You said another unaddressed Bill Barr perversion and weaponization of the DOJ exposed by the New York Times. More Trump crimes buried with no accountability. So just another day in today's America. Our friend Brian Karam, the great reporter, said right now, my question to Bill Barr, do you take any responsibility for the spread of misinformation and disinformation during the Trump administration? His answer, no, I take no responsibility. Not surprising. Right. But is there any accountability for Bill Barr or John Durham in any of this? And what about the financial crimes? Like, that the Italians said, no, we didn't use our satellites to change your votes. But hey, by the way, here's a bunch of financial crimes that Donald Trump committed. I mean, what happens with all this?
Is there any accountability for Bill Barr and John Durham? Not yet. And, if Merrick Garland really wants to be an institutionalist, really the only way to repair the institution is by holding a former head of that institution, Attorney General Bill Barr, accountable for his crimes. We see no indication that that's being done. It doesn't mean it's not being done, because it should be, behind the scenes in grand juries, and we know nothing about it. So I hope to heck it's being done, because that's the only way to repair the institution that Bill Barr damaged so badly. And, when you see that reporting from the New York Times, which was just breathtaking in what it exposed of the unethical practices of the Durham probe. And I think you put your finger on probably the most dramatic of the abuses, when Bill Barr and John Durham are globetrotting, trying to undermine our law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Hey, you have any dirt on U.S. intelligence and law enforcement agencies saying that the Trump-Russia probe should not have been opened? And the Italian officials say, no, but we know about some financial crimes of Donald Trump. What do? They should have sent that out to independent federal prosecutors for an investigation, not give it to John Durham, who was looking at Trump as a victim, and now he's going to look at Trump as a perpetrator too. That's what we call a conflict. So, and yet Barr doesn't do that. Instead, he says he opens a probe, and then he buries it. And hopefully we'll learn more about what happened.
I was going to say, Glenn, does it stay buried? Or is there any possibility legally it still gets prosecuted should the evidence come forth?
It's all up to Merrick Garland. And right now, it seems that nothing is being shared with the American people that gives me any confidence level that, and the message that has been sent. Let me throw another haymaker at the Department of Justice, Steph. The message that has been sent by Merrick Garland to every future wannabe dictator is, if you try to overthrow our democracy violently, let me just tell you, let me put you on notice, you will have 2 full years and counting to plot your next move, and we will do nothing to you. That's the message that has been sent, and I'm sure it's being received by the Ron DeSantis's of the world.
Yeah. Let's read a headline quickly that makes us happy. Capitol rioter breaks down crying in court, gets hit with 68-month prison sentence.
Oh, wow. Okay. Huh.
Okay, just that, but that's what needs to happen. Accountability. That's what needs to stop this ongoing coup. You said the Republican Party, as presently constituted, will implode. The only question is what will rise up from the ashes. My bet is it will be led by folks like Cheney and Kinzinger. Then we can go back to arguing about policy. Is this what we're going to see these next couple of years? Just going to be irritating, but not, anything we have to worry about? I mean, you said Jim Jordan, chairman of the House Judiciary, demands details about ongoing DOJ probes. DOJ responds to Jordan by saying, pound sand. You're paraphrasing, of course. But, I mean, it's a lot of noise, right? But he knows they can't talk about ongoing criminal investigations, right?
Yeah, and let's face it, how sweet is it that, McCarthy had to sell his soul to get the power of the speaker's gavel? And I know you're saying, Steph, McCarthy has a soul? But, he had to give it all away just to get that speaker's gavel. And now he's really powerless, right? Because he has appeased his own extreme MAGA factions in his party, and they can turn on him at any moment. So, yeah, we're going to hear a lot of noise. We're going to hear a lot of yammering from Jim Jordan. It will all be for naught because DOJ will resist all of these nefarious subpoenas, and the Senate is not going to pass anything that passes out of the House. It's just going to be a really uncomfortable 2 years. And, once we start seeing indictments drop, and Steph, I still believe indictments are coming.
Yeah,
because
I
can't conceive of a nation or a Department of Justice where they're going to give it all away to Donald Trump and his criminal associates. They're coming, and that's when I think you're going to see things begin to turn and things to begin to improve.
I'm like you. I'm happy clappy. I'm a hope monger. Travis Bone is a wake me when he's in jail camp now. We've lost him.
I just want.
He wants movement.
I don't want speculation. I don't want anything. I want facts.
All right, just go back to sleep.
And justice.
We'll wake you when he's in jail.
Justice.
Okay.
You want justice, Travis, right?
There you go.
That's right.
Because
Thank you.
justice matters.
Yes.
That's right.
Where did I hear that?
If only somebody would say that more often.
You mentioned the campaign finance, the individual one case, and you said New York DA Alvin Bragg opens a grand jury probe and again begins investigating the New York State crimes of Donald Trump. We've seen this movie before, haven't we? Still, there are some reasons Bragg may have decided to jumpstart this criminal investigation of Trump. What do you make of all this, the lateness of it, and what the outcome might be? I mean, I don't care as long as we get there.
There are a couple of reasons I think Bragg is now feeling the heat. Now, on the upside, he tried the Trump Organization to a conviction, so he got to kick the tires of the witnesses who would have to testify against Donald Trump personally, because many of them had to testify against the Trump Organization. So maybe he's feeling a little emboldened. I think also the tax return releases, first to Congress and then to everybody, probably showed that there's a lot of evidence there that, for example, Donald Trump took $130,000 in payoff money to Stormy Daniels and wrote it off as business expenses. That would be tax fraud. Mm-hmm. And then you've got, I think he's feeling the heat of Fani Willis preparing to be the first state district attorney, which is what Alvin Bragg is, getting ready to indict Donald Trump for crimes in her backyard. Bragg is like, I better play catch up. And then finally, Steph, Mark Pomerantz, right?
Yeah.
The prosecutor who investigated the crimes of Donald Trump and told Alvin Bragg, we've got the goods and we can convict him. And Alvin Bragg killed the investigation. He's about to publish a book.
Yep.
And I think it's going to make Bragg look bad. So I think Bragg is like, I better get back in the prosecuting Donald Trump game, or everything's going to break bad for me.
Hey all, Glenn Kirschner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day. particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirschner wherever you generally get your podcasts.